So welcome to Friday Night with Ken and Cheryl. Tonight we're talking about planning excursions for people that have challenges. A lot of the things that we'll cover apply to anybody, but in particular we're going to be looking at accessible excursions. That's what we're looking for our trip to the Panama Canal. And if you didn't know, she's Cheryl.
And he's Ken.
And so I'm going to bring up, I'll share the screen here. So what we have up on the screen right now is you can see our cruise, and we've got the itinerary open. So I'm going to scroll down. Our first port is Turks and Caicos. And that port's a little bit in question still. They're not sure it's going to open back up. But anyway, if it does, there it is. So to start with, I'm going to click just to see what they have in the way of excursions from Princess. So we start to look at what's available.
I like the Princess page because right there under each one, it tells you the level of activity, and it will also tell you if it's wheelchair accessible right there. Now, when they're saying wheelchair accessible, they're meaning fully accessible, not like folding your wheelchair up and putting it in something.
Yeah. Oh, there it is, excursion details. Sorry about that. So it tells us that we're traveling an open air vehicle. There's nothing in there that indicates it's accessible, because usually if it is accessible, there'll be a note there.
So that's just an example of one.
So we'll go down here and look a little bit farther. And here we go. You notice they have Charm of Grand Turk by Open Air Tram. It's wheelchair accessible, easy activity. And it's kind of interesting because right next to it, there's another tour that has the same name, same price, but one is wheelchair accessible, the other is not. So if we look at the details, again, we get a description of what we do, the places we go. It says it's wheelchair accessible. It says only guests using a wheelchair can book this excursion. And we look at the details. It tells us it's not open air.
This one's sold out, so maybe not showing wheelchair available.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
Yeah, previously it had said wheelchair accessible there, but I just noticed on the previous page that the wheelchair accessible one is sold out. You can see also at the top of the page there next to the top.
So that one is sold out. Okay. And that's one of the reasons. Go ahead, Joe.
And that's interesting because when you look at those two that are similar, it's going to tell you on the one wheelchair accessible, if you can only take one person with the wheelchair and then one accompanying person, and all the rest of the family members will have to ride the other bus that's not accessible. That way they can get as many wheelchairs onto that bus as possible.
And so as we scroll down, the only other thing that shows wheelchair accessible is they have poolside cabanas there that are wheelchair accessible. And again, you can't reserve that unless you use a wheelchair. So for right now, it looks like that we'd have trouble getting an accessible excursion. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some other choices. So this is Tripadvisor's site, and I just looked for Grand Turk because that's where we stopped. And it lists some things. It gives you a variety. One of the things you'll find on Tripadvisor is you have a lot more choices. And I want to talk for just a second about using non-cruise excursions. Cheryl and I, most of the time, if we book excursions, we don't book through the cruise line. We will do it. Hey, Pam, how are you tonight? We don't book through the cruise line. We'll do it ourselves. There are a couple of caveats. First of all, we always plan to be back to the ship a couple hours early, which cuts our day a little bit shorter, but we typically save quite a bit in that process. Now, there are some beaches that are really close, and we'll look at the port. This cruise center is where you come off the dock, and there's quite a bit of stuff to do in there. So we'll look at that. But we see all the different choices you have in Turks and Caicos. And if I click see all.
But on Turks and Caicos, it doesn't have, I mean, on Tripadvisor, it doesn't have a way to search for wheelchair accessibility. You have to look at each one you think might be and read all the details. So it takes a little bit longer than like on the cruise ships. It usually tells you really quickly if it's wheelchair accessible or not.
Yeah. And so they do have what they call the Grand Turk Sightseeing Tour. And there's the name of the company that runs it, Papaji Tours. It tells you to check availability. And as we come down here, what it does tell us is that collapsible wheelchairs with removable wheels can be accommodated by providing the passengers accompanied by someone who can assist them board and disembark. It's stroller accessible, wheelchair accessible. So, you know, again, we have to collapse the wheelchair, but that's not a big problem.
So you have to be able to step up on the bus.
Yeah, it is a bus. You'd have to be able to climb up in it, or somebody's got to help you in there. And it tells you what you can do to where you can get picked up and what to go, where it goes and what it does. And this is very similar to the cruise ship one. It goes to the National Museum, Grand Turk Lighthouse. So it's very similar. There'll be some differences. Now, Tripadvisor, if we go back here, like I said, they've got a lot of choices. So you can pick what you're looking for. In this case, I just picked that one because it said it was accessible. One of the things I also looked at was the Grand Turk Cruise Center, and it tells you about what's right here. So, for example, on the right side where the cursor is, you can see there's a couple of flow riders there, big pool area. There's a Margaritaville there. There's beach just off to the right of that. All of this is pretty well described in here. It talks about the things to see and do, the bars and grills that are open. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure that it's going to be open for cruises yet. Here's one of the things that Cheryl and I looked at, and we might do, is there is a golf cart that you can rent. And I don't have the pricing on it. I'll have to email them. But what that does is that lets you tour the island. We did that in Bimini, and we had a good time. We just putzed around Bimini in a golf cart. Both those islands are, you know, they're small islands. They're easy to get around. They're flat.
And we did that at Costa Maya one time.
And we did one in Costa Maya too, around the golf cart there. And that worked well for us because we could put the wheelchair on the golf cart and we went and did stuff.
You should her comment.
Yeah. Okay, so Pam, your folding scooter, they might, I don't know, I would email them about that. And that's one of the things that I would do if you know, when you're planning a trip out. I email a lot of these tour advisors. By the way, let us know where you're watching from tonight. I know we got at least 3 people on watching, so let us know where you're from, where you're watching from.
And these people that when it gives you the company name, you can usually search that company. You can click on that company name, and then a lot of times you'll get their emails and phone numbers, and so you can check it out from there.
So I just clicked on Papaji Tours where it showed it there on Tripadvisor. I'm gonna come down in here and click more. There's their website, their phone number, and their email. So you can get a hold of them. And I do that a lot when I'm reaching out to people. I'll email them and to tell them what our situation is and ask them if it works or if they have another suggestion.
And I would recommend giving them like the dimensions of the scooter and the weight and the dimensions, you know, when it's folded, because they may have some riders who just can't lift certain weights, or, you know, they may have to schedule on a particular bus. So it's the more details you give, the better the answer you'll get back. Yeah.
And like I said, I probably email 5 or 6 places a day. I'm going to show you some more stuff here in just a second. You know, let's go port information. We're talking about golf carts. So golf carts is an option for us because we put Cheryl's scooter or Cheryl's wheelchair in the golf cart with us, and we could go see and do. That way we can just putz around the island. We could do all the things on the tour. But I have another source for you, and I'm going to put links to Tripadvisor and this other source here, because this is a website called Cruise Critic. And Cruise Critic is a really helpful site when you're doing research about ports, about ships, about a lot of different things. I probably on Cruise Critic 2 or 3 times every day, you know, when I'm in the cruise mode, when we're thinking about cruising or going somewhere. So in this case, what they said here is that You search for Grand Turk taxi tours, and the woman that runs them, and you basically get a private taxi tour, and it's fairly inexpensive. So you could just go in there and Google Grand Turk taxi tours and see, reach out. Again, I would reach out and talk to people. We've done this a couple of times where we arranged taxi tours. We did that in Nassau and had a really nice day. We told them we needed a taxi that could take our wheelchair, so they sent a small van taxi. Cheryl, we'd put the wheelchair in the back and Cheryl transfer into the seat without a problem, and we went all over Nassau.
We did that in Jamaica too. We had a private taxi.
Yeah, we did that. We contacted a private tour company in Jamaica, and they did the same thing for us. Let us create a custom tour. And that's really useful if if there are places you want to go that may not necessarily be on the beaten path, you can talk to these people and usually get it worked out.
Or if like, for example, sometimes if you take a tour and they have a set schedule, if you have someone helping you with your scooter or the wheelchair, and that's going to take time and each stop is only 15 or 20 minutes, you're not going to get out at every time. It's just not worth it. So if you have a private tour, you can say, look, we want to go somewhere, stay there like 30, 40 minutes, go somewhere else, stay there 30, 40 minutes. That's better for us. And that works out really well when you have, all these things you have to get on and off the bus with you.
Yeah, because it's always slower. And the nice thing about it, if it works out for a private one, is you don't have a bunch of other people irritated because they're waiting on you. I'm going to back up here a little bit on Cruise Critic. So I'm going to go to the Cruise Critic homepage, just show you how I got to where I was. Okay, and so I clicked on up here where it says boards. And when I click on boards, it takes me down here, and you'll notice that there's there's some ads at the top, but then you cruise line. So you could pick the cruise line you're going to be on and ask questions. And I'll give you an example of where I did that. So let's look at American Princess. So I'll show you a question I asked, and I'm gonna go up here because I've gotten a notification on it. So I'll just click on this really quick. So I asked about Princess Cruise Lines, because we're going on Princesses, and this is our first trip on Princess. So I had questions, and so here's my post at the stop. You have to create a sign-in, but there's no charge for it. And so I posted, I said, my wife and I are going to be on the Emerald, and we're going to Panama Canal. What are the things we should do? Best specialty, dining plans, Wi-Fi, formal suggestions for accessible tours. And I just posted it in there, and I've got 2 pages of answers and quite a bit of information that's useful there. So that's how I use that. But going back to the top of the boards, if you're looking for ports, you go down a little farther. Oh, they also have a topic on disabled cruising, which is worth taking a look at. But I'm going to go down here to ports of call. And in this case, that one is going to show up in the Caribbean. And I'll go down here to Grand Turk. And there's on this board, there are 20,300 posts about Grand Turk. So is the Grand Turk open? That question got asked a couple of times. What it requires, tour recommendations. I looked at that one. But there's a lot of information here on Cruise Critic, and I'll put a link. I don't have it in the chat right now. I mean, in the discussion. Actually, I could put it in. Actually, I'll post it. I think you can get it there. So let's just do this. I'll put it there, and then I'll also I will put it in the discussion. Okay. So anyway, so we pretty much looked at the Grand Turks, the bus tour. We may just go to the beach, may just hang out, or we may do a taxi tour. We haven't decided yet, but this is, we've got to still have 2 or 3 weeks out so we can do that. All right, so that was one of our destinations. We're going to pick our next destination that we're going to look at. Get back up here to the top. Is we're going to look at Cartagena, Colombia. I just got to find that tab. Okay, so we're in, I gotta log back in. Excuse me 1 second. And hit continue. There we go. And we're gonna hit the manage this booking again. It logs me out. I checked in a little too early probably, but I'll go down here to short excursions. Okay, so as we look at short excursions in Cartagena, your time in port, which is important. So if I was doing one on my own, I'd expect to try to time my trip to be back about 1 o'clock.
Because if you're booking on your own, the cruise ship is not responsible to get you back to the ship on time, and they'll leave without you. So, but if you want to, but this is a way to get to more options of what to do.
Yeah, you get to have more choices this way. So there is a sightseeing tour on your own. It's moderate activity. It said top ones are moderate. This one intrigues me. It's kind of interesting. We're going to look at this a little more and a little deeper. But when you get to Cartagena, there's several choices of what time you get on. And what this is a hop-on, hop-off bus. Okay, and so we'll look at the details. Well, now it's really interesting because earlier it said
this is on Princess. Maybe you're not on the Tripadvisor.
I know, but earlier I thought it said that there was that it wasn't accessible. But anyway, it's just you get on and they'll give you a ride from the pier to where you pick up the hop-on, hop-off bus. It doesn't say one way or the other whether it's an accessible tour, but it didn't say on the front page it was.
I think there's something on the front of the bottom paragraph.
Let's see. We'll go back and look. Maybe I missed it.
Oh, no, you're not on the page now.
There.
New details, right?
That's where we were.
I thought there was a page with paragraphs at the bottom.
Oh, we can go back and see.
Oh, no. Oh, maybe it's this page. Just go down. Something. No, doesn't say anything down there.
Okay.
It's warning you there may be traffic delays and all that. And so the overall, that particular little city bus makes the tour around the city in about an hour if you don't get off. So you need to make sure that if you're getting off, and you've been there for a while already, that you still have time to get around and back to where you need to catch a taxi to get back to the pier.
Oh, nice to have you with us, Stephanie and Jody. Nice to have everybody here tonight. Okay, so in this case, we didn't find enough information to know if it was accessible or not. So when I went to Tripadvisor, and what we see that same bus, city sightseeing, hop on and hop off. So I wanted to know more about it. Oh, no, that's a different one. I'm sorry. I'll click on it again. This one's $15 for adults. Now you have to get to the bus stop, which could be the challenge. Oh, this is the one I want. This one says it's wheelchair accessible. Now that does not necessarily mean that they have a ramp. I just think that that's going to mean, again, that what you can do is get on and off, and transfer to your wheelchair. They have a walking tour that's in 90 minutes, but for us, 4 o'clock wouldn't work for the walking tour, but we could get on early and we could spend the day riding around and getting on and off, seeing what we want to see. So that is a possibility. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, it gives you the details on it. And again, in this situation, if I wanted to know more about it, I could click on City Sightseeing. And I'd go down here and click the more again, and I could go to their website, which tells you about it. And there would be a contact us. Should be a contact us down here, contact page that would give you their email. They also tell you where you can find them on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And these tours are run pretty much all over the world, if depending on where the accessibility of it.
So you should be able to ask them if they have the wheelchair lifts and.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you can find out about it. I did find another one here, the City Tour of Cartagena for cruises, different company.
$85 a person.
Yeah, it is $85 a person. But what it does say is, let's see, you have to have 2 people per booking. And it says it's not wheelchair accessible. So in this case, it needs moderate fitness level. So what that means is that this one's not going to work really well. I just was looking at all the places it went and what's included. They pick you up at the port. Okay, that gives you an idea of what to see in Cartagena. We can also go to Cruise Critic, and there's a whole bunch of questions about. This one was an interesting read. It's long. We're not going to look at it, but this person did a tour on their own, and they did not do well as they booked it because they couldn't find a taxi that took them. They didn't speak Spanish. And that is one of the things to keep in mind. If your tour guide can't pick you up at the cruise terminal, you got to make sure that you know how to communicate well enough to tell people where you want to go. This one they had some problems with, but there are some other ones that are recommended. Different things you can do there. There's a hop on hop off bus review. There's a warning you got pickpocketed. So there are a lot of information here. So again, I looked at it talks about booking it from the ship, and you can get this from the ship as well. And depending, the price difference wasn't that high. I might take it from the ship just because it's convenience. They want to know about buying emeralds. By the way, for us, Colombia would be a good place to buy coffee as well as Costa Rica. And then here's a review of an excursion. Somebody took this Dora the Explorer and talked about how good it was. One person at the top had a bad experience. Again, you can read it, decide what you think of it. But that's why I like Cruise Critic. You get a lot of information there. Okay, any questions so far on what we've covered? And then I've got one more port we're going to look at. Okay, I don't see any questions, so log back in again. I just had multiple windows open so that we could do this a little more quickly. Manage the booking. Short excursions. And so our next stop that we're going to talk about is Limon, Costa Rica. Now, there are some excursions. Actually, we'll look for just a second here. There are some Panama Canal excursions. And one of them takes you all the way through. It's a long drive. And the one thing about this one is that they apparently pick you up in Gatun Lake. So I don't know whether you transfer to I'm not sure exactly how it works. But I didn't do much short excursion shopping. Most of it was not particularly easy. None of it was listed as being easy activity, well, except that one.
And they have a tram. It's interesting that they have a tram that goes up and down mountain or the forest, but
that's the next one, Costa Rica.
Oh, Costa Rica. Oh, okay. Anyway, on one of these, I got ahead of myself.
Yeah, but we're gonna go. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back and we're gonna talk about Costa Rica, because there are some things, and then again, it's interesting. So we'll look at Costa Rica, and so we'll look at the excursions to start with. Thank you for the kind words there, Pam. So there's a lot of things in Costa Rica. A lot of them are not particularly accessible. In fact, I don't think they only had one that was listed as accessible. We're going to go down and look at that one here in a minute. Okay, so the Veragua Rainforest, wheelchair accessible. Easy activity, includes a snack. So we're going to click on view the details, because again, the same excursion is also available.
No, that has a wheelchair in it. You can see the picture.
Yeah, I know. And this other one is, says it is it's the same excursion, but it doesn't have, it's not wheelchair accessible. But it tells us to read special notes, and it walks through you what you'll see. And again, you have to have a wheelchair to take this one. But there are some things that are pretty interesting here. So transfer from the pier to the rainforest. It's air-conditioned bus. It says it's not wheelchair accessible, but it just told us outside that it was. So I think this is an error on the website, because we just saw the bus with a lift. So,
but maybe you have to take a taxi. We're not sure if you have to take a taxi to the bus. That's what we're not. Sure about.
Yeah. I'll know a lot more when we go. Then when we get to the rainforest adventure and research, we have a walking tour. Says that there's 10 steps to deal with, but it says it's wheelchair accessible. So that leads me to believe that there is a ramp as well. It says the walking distance that's probably 200 feet. But in this case, with a wheelchair, it's not a problem. We're going to find out more about that in a minute. This one was the one that starts to make this a no for us, though it is accessible. Aerial tram ride, and you have a walk on the accessible Trail of the Giants. Again, 700 feet, but it's accessible in a wheelchair, but you have to ride the tram. And Cheryl's not a fan of trams. Then we have another aerial tram that goes downhill. It says 350 steps, and it's not wheelchair accessible. So I'm not sure about this piece of it. And I'll get more information while we're on the cruise.
Oh, I could take the steps up with 2 canes.
She'll say, give her 2 canes, and she'll climb and meet us at the top.
Climb down.
But like I said, she's not a fan. So we have this walk on the Trail of the Giants is accessible. And then we have a wheelchair accessible return. But Cheryl doesn't like heights, so we won't do this one. But I am going to try to find out more about it. Then we have some place where we can eat, and you get transportation back. Again, on this non-accessible bus that we saw was accessible. Anyway, like I said, so you can start to find, and Princess, as Cheryl mentioned earlier, Princess does the best job of providing excursion information compared to the other ones we've looked at. We've looked at quite a few of them. But in this case, because it's fairly expensive and we're pretty thrifty, but the second piece of it is that Cheryl would not enjoy the tram. She doesn't like heights.
And then we looked at photos of the tram, and they have 2 different trams. And so the one tram, you can get the wheelchair on. The other one, you'd be hard pressed to even get a folded wheelchair on it. It's really small. So it's got a little bit of question about that too.
Okay, so we're going to look at Tripadvisor, and again, we've got a list of things. There's your tram. When Cheryl saw that was the absolute end of that as a discussion. There were quite a few things. There's a close up of the tram, but there's a lot of things to do here. The challenge is a lot of these are bus tours and long tours, and Cheryl doesn't. Here's the tram, a bigger up close version of it. Cheryl doesn't do well for a long time sitting upright either, which is a huge reason we travel with her wheelchair. So all of those seemed a little bit iffy. I don't know that we'll do an excursion there.
Yeah, some of the excursions were 6.5 hours, 5.5 hours, and that's a really long time for me to do the same.
Yeah, see, this one's 5 hours.
I usually don't like to do something more than about 3.5 hours.
Yeah, see, this one says not wheelchair accessible.
So Pam doesn't want to go on the tram either. Good, Pam, we can travel together sometime.
Yeah. So anyway, it was interesting. And I love the research piece of it. In fact, I probably make Cheryl nuts because I tend to, so here's what I did on Cruise Critic is I posted this suggestion, and actually it's already up there. So if I back up to Costa Rica, There we go. So there's my MIS guys, my name on Cruise Critic. I asked for suggestions for tours with people with limited mobility. 11 people have looked at it. Nobody's given me an answer yet. But you can find out about coffee and grocery stores and all these other, all these other tours. I was trying to see. I thought I had. Maybe it's this one. So this person asked about walking off and seeing what there is to see. But it talks about going to a beach and other things. So anyway, so I use Cruise Critic a lot. Here's something else I did. I clicked on, I went to Google and accessible shore excursions in Puerto Limon, Costa Rica. Now there are people that do private tours and do accessible tours. I was looking. Most of these, there you go. This person, she talked about going there, and so in her blog, she talks about what you can do there. You said right at the terminal, there's a craft and souvenir market, so you can do that.
With the streets, she said the streets in the city are in really poor shape.
Yeah, and so you have to either go somewhere else. She posted about going to that rainforest, so we could click on her blog there. And the rainforest is one of the things that is Costa Rica is known for. Oh, so there is a.
Oh, so you can get the ramp on the one. I don't know about this, but the second one said you can't. So
I don't know. Anyway, so if you're interested, I would read her post. Again, Googling your port and accessible tours works really well to try to find some information.
I actually went up and then came back down on the same one or something.
And then here's an interesting one, because this was in a review on Tripadvisor, and so it talked about taking the trip and doing it in a wheelchair. So this person seemed to think that it was really accessible. Accessible motor coach, paths were either boardwalk or packed dirt, bathrooms, but there was an accessible stall. So all the way around for this person, it worked well. Like I said, I think Cheryl and I probably would try it, but like I said, she's not a fan of heights. So I think we may not do anything in Costa Rica. We'll probably walk around the port area, and I'll do some filming in the shops. Hopefully you guys have gotten some value out of this. If you did, do me a favor, hit the like button, because that lets YouTube know that there was some content worthwhile in the video. And for those that are not subscribed to my channel, I always appreciate it. I know Pam's subscribed, but I always appreciate it when you subscribe to the channel, because it helps me grow. Eventually, I'll get to the point that YouTube will start paying me a little bit, a very little bit, but anyway, they'll start paying me a little bit for making videos. Hopefully, like I said, you got some value out of it, and we will see everybody next week. And I think next week we're going to talk about what we're packing for our cruise. We'll probably go back in and look a little bit at what the information we got off of Cruise Critic, compare that with what the website says. And we also got some suggestions about viewing as we go through the canal. So we might talk a little bit about that, but we'll talk a little more about getting ready for the trip, because it's not going to be that long before. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, and we'll go get lots of videos, Pam. You know us; we always bring back videos. It was interesting. I was talking to somebody. I have enough film stuff in the can right now to probably make videos for 4 or 5 months, because we've done 6 cruises already this year, and we have 4 more on the books. One at the end of December into January, one at the end of January. We got some interesting things that we're going to do. So the end of January cruise, we're going to get a little bit of video. That's more of a vacation for us, but we're going with some friends to Aruba. Right now it says Bonaire. We'll see 2 places in the Dominican Republic, all places that we've never been. So more places to go and see and talk about. Then in March, we're sailing out of New Jersey. So we'll do some port videos from Bayonne, and yeah, you just got to quit working, Pam. We'll watch my videos all day. It'll be all right. But anyway, so we'll do that one, and that's going to San Juan. We've never been, so we'll get some San Juan, and we're going back to St. Martin. We'll do something different than we did the last time we were in St. Martin. And then we're going to be on the Virgin Ladies. So for all of those of you that are adults and like adult-only cruises, and not in a sense of misbehaving adult-only, but just cruises with no children on board, we're going to be on the Scarlet Lady at the end of March, and we're looking forward to that. Virgin is a very different thing. No buffets, 20 restaurants on board. I am a little bit hard pressed because we like to do restaurant reviews of the places we eat. And with 4 days on the ship and 20 restaurants, that works out to eating a lot. So I'm not sure how we're going to we'll squeeze in as much of it as we can, try to get you as many reviews of restaurants and stuff.
The cabin videos, yeah, I'm really interested in the cabin on Virgin. I've only seen one video on it, and it was like the smallest room I've ever seen.
Well, I don't know about that, but they're pretty small. They're unusually laid out, so we'll have some video on that. I've got a bunch more stuff coming. So everybody that's watched, we really appreciate it. We will see everybody next Friday night.
Bye.